I don't give a damn about my reputation. Never let it pass in a generation. I'll do what you wanna do, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I don't give a damn about my reputation. It's oh no. It's not me. It's oh no.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome back to Sudden but Inevitable, the single-season television show rewatch podcast dedicated to shows that were canceled mercilessly before their time. Usually, we're doing space westerns or sci-fi, but today is a special occasion, and I'm going to tell you about that in just one moment. I, of course, am your host, Captain Bootscoot, a.k.a. Vanilla Husband, a.k.a. Jesse. And with me, as always, is my very long-time friend and co-host, Josh. Welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Things are settling down a little bit. Look, I got my screen behind me. I got an internet connection that's really good. I'm excited. I'm excited for another Friday with you guys talking about some cool things. And everyone in the chat, my God, we got the thirst chat this week. I'm so stoked about that.
Meg is here. Aaron from Fandom Thing Pod is here. Cameron is here. Carla is here. Callie is here. Rona is here. Hello. We love you all. You are the most wonderful listeners and live viewers that a little tiny podcast could ask for. Speaking of little and tiny, we have one more person to introduce you to. And of course, I am referring to the guest of honor, our birthday boy, as we like to call him once per year, of course. I am referring to Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Happy birthday. Welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable, my friend.
Happy birthday!
How are you doing?
I am doing great. It has been a good birthday. I tend to be the kind of guy who doesn't really care, doesn't do anything about his birthday. But, you know, you suggested Freaks and Geeks. I mentioned my birthday was going to be our next show. You mentioned Freaks and Geeks. And it's kind of fun to do something a little exciting. You know, I'm not going out and throwing ragers anymore, but this is a cool way to celebrate. And I got to see a car accident today. So that was awesome.
Really? Happy
It
birthday.
was just a side swipe, but you know, something exciting for my day.
Oh, like it happened directly in front of you.
Right in front of me.
Gotcha. I thought you meant like you drove past a car accident that had occurred. And
no, I watched
a
car just slash into the one next to it.
Oh,
fun times.
Did you come up with a story in your head? You're like, that guy owes that guy money.
Oh, nah, just an accident, just enjoying a little carnage.
Ricky Schadenfreude D, we call him here at Sudden But Inevitable. We have happy birthdays all through the live chat for our friend Ricky D. Look at this. Meg says, happy birthday, Ricky D, for Best Flicks with Ricky D, all caps. She knows your full name. This is just so much. This is so overwhelmingly cool. This is why we do what we do here at Sudden But Inevitable, which is talk about single season television shows. And as Ricky mentioned, this week we figured, you know what? It's Ricky's birthday. We're kind of between seasons right now. I am currently impossibly busy in my non-podcasting life. Josh is just getting settled. Everything is sliding back into some kind of version of normal for us. But it's Ricky's birthday, so we should let him pick. But, you know, we already have a plan for season 4. So what we're going to do is every year on Ricky's birthday, we're going to watch another episode of Freaks and Geeks. So join us next year on April 8th for, well, maybe on April 8th. It'll depend. It'll be the Friday closest to April
7th.
Next year, the episode is Beers and Weirs. The Weirs parents go out of town. They throw a raging kegger in the house. Get excited for next year's episode.
See, and here I was thinking we should do like a half birthday for Ricky. You know, like on Ricky's half birthday, we do episode 2.
Do the fans deserve to celebrate my birthday twice a year?
Here's the thing. It's not.
I think I deserve to celebrate your birthday twice a year.
Really, what it comes down to is, am I physically capable of giving up control of decision making twice a year? And I think we all know the answer to that question. I'm one of the most arrogant podcasters there is, according to our reviews. So maybe we'll put up a poll. we'll let the Twitter listeners and followers and folks decide. Maybe the live chat. Live chat, what do you think? What's Ricky D's half birthday? If his birthday is April 8th, what's his half birthday? If you can get it to me in the next 5 minutes, I will consider this.
October 8th?
October 8th, yep.
There's no way that's accurate.
Yeah, April,
No.
May,
No.
June, July,
No,
August,
I mean
September,
to the day.
October.
To the day. I need it to be exactly whatever half of 360.
Well, now you're just no.
I'm known for being pedantic, Josh. This is
So I need to count
I don't know the rules
182
on half
days.
birthdays.
I don't
Would it be
either. That's why I
182
assumed
and a
this is
half
what I said.
days?
Okay, so how many days? Oh,
Man, if it's
Oh,
October
my
8th, that's going to be
Lord,
great.
man.
I was going to say, we have people in the chat laughing at each other. We have people in the chat talking about how hard it is to be a mom. We have people saying they love the idea, planning ahead. See, and now that's the big thing, Ricky D. We can't change when the next episode will be because we've already booked Erin from It's a Fandom Thing Pod to be our guest next year.
That's true.
So she's already got us in her calendar. So maybe after episode 2, we'll reassess the schedule. Okay. That gives me a year to feel out how I feel about this. And I think that's about how long it will take me to decide. My friend Megan in the chat is calling me out, but it's not a call out if you said it yourself. So, Freaks and Geeks. Okay.
September
This show-
23rd.
That's not October 8th. But,
Well, it was close. 2 weeks off.
anyways, do you guys remember what happened on October 3rd?
I do.
What?
And I don't think you guys want to know what happened on my October 3rd this last year.
Oh. I was going to say Katie was sitting in class and Aaron Samuels asked her what day it was. But
Oh, man.
whatever happened to you sounds awful, and I don't know that we want to talk about that. Let's talk about Freaks
don't.
and Geeks.
Let's
Let's
do
talk
it.
about Freaks and Geeks. Ricky, as the guest of honor, would you like to introduce us to this show? Where does this show come from? Who created this show? What might people be familiar with if they haven't seen Freaks and Geeks by the creator of Freaks and Geeks? What makes Freaks and Geeks so freaky and geeky? Ricky and Deaky?
Yeah, the real power team behind Freaks and Geeks is Judd Apatow and Paul Feig. They do a lot of work together. We're pulling it up on IMDb right now. But Paul Feig is a big producer. And sometimes producers just feed money into a project, and some producers really get involved with them. And Paul Feig tends to get really involved with this stuff. If you guys remember that kind of bad movie Heavyweights from the 90s, that one also had Goldberg in it, Freaks and Geeks. Sorry, I should have been a little bit more prepared for this.
Isn't he?
It looks like
around...
Paul Feig, he directed one episode of this as well. There's a lot. There's Jake Kasdan, Judd Apatow,
Office.
Brian Gordon. Like, they did a lot of directing and stuff.
I was going to say that if you didn't say that. So, yes, The Office with a capital O in America was developed by Paul Feig with direct assistance, I believe, with Ricky Gervais, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Mhm.
So he, and I believe, let's see, was he in one episode where they were at a veterinarian? Wait a minute.
Was it the cat adoption episode?
I might be thinking of a different episode of a different television show. Paul Feig has also been in some stuff, you know, as like little cameos. But he is a very prolific creator, is the point. Like, he's well known in the TV world. He's been behind some of the biggest TV shows, especially in the United States. Which,
And then
you know,
Judd Apatow is one of my favorites. More recently, he's done Knocked Up, King of Staten Island, 40-Year-Old Virgin. Crashing was an amazing TV show on HBO.
He did
Trainwreck.
Superbad as well. Superbad
Yep.
was kind of where he got huge, and like that came out in I think 2009, 2008 or something. And I think Superbad is the movie that put him on the map. Which, ironically enough, is another like product about high school kids.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well, it's
he does a
supposedly
really
about
good
them.
job with. Yeah,
And
which it's even
if
better.
Seth
And a
Rogen
lot of
or
people.
Adam-
Sorry, I was gonna say a lot of people in Superbad were in Freaks and Geeks as well.
Yeah, if Seth Rogen or Adam Sandler is around, Judd Apatow is probably writing something for him.
So give me if one of you does one of you guys have the cast list pulled up for this show, because it's
do.
a veritable who has become who of celebrities,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
I'll
like,
just start from the top. Linda Cardinelli, or Cardellini, John Francis Daly, James Franco, Sam Levine, Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, Martin Starr, Becky Ann Baker. I mean,
Busy
and
Phillips.
and
Izzy
it just
Phillips,
goes on and on.
Lizzie
Like
Kaplan,
Ben Foster.
Trace Beaulieu, I think is how you say that name. He was the mad scientist from Mystery Science Theater. Like he was in this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in this. The Mr. Universe from Serenity is in this show.
Was this the
David
startup for
Krumholtz.
most of these actors? Was like this the first thing that Seth Rogen
For a lot
and
of the
like
young
James
ones,
Franco?
definitely.
Ricky, when
Okay.
did this come out in relation to Donnie Darko? Because Seth Rogen was in both of those, playing similarly haircutted characters, I think.
Donnie Darko was 2002 and this was 99.
There you go. So it was like, was Paul Feig somehow like involved in that casting? Because that whole group of actors, right? They've all been in a million movies together, and they became known as the Brat Pack, right? They were in like Your Highness and Pineapple Express and what is it? This Is the End, and like there's a
Oh, I love
million
that
movies
movie.
that had. I really like that one. Michael Cera was great in This Is the End.
Does anybody have my phone? Does anybody see my phone?
Meg says, Aaron says, knocked up was Apatow. Meg has a deep, abiding love for John Francis Daly. So,
I love him.
Okay.
He's one of my favorite people.
Before we jump into this, this show, before we jump into talking about this show, Ricky actually came up with a fun idea, I think, for a segment, and I'm going to let Ricky go first because he's the birthday boy. Ricky is newly 21, so we are going to take him to the bar tomorrow for some alcohol.
Oh, I better pour another shot.
Well, it's, that's custom. So we're going to do it. So Ricky, if you would like to introduce us to your Who is Which Character segment, please.
Yeah. So I just thought it'd be fun since we're doing a high school show. We're getting high school photos. Just which one of these characters, and they all kind of have iconic archetypes, which one really fits each of us. So I want to choose my own and then choose one for you guys, and you guys can choose your own. And, we all have kind of different opinions of who each other are and who ourselves are and that kind of thing. So for myself, I chose Neil Schreiber. I really like Neil. He's this funny little Jewy kid. He's so funny, and I love his interactions with Alan the bully, because Alan goes straight after Sam Weir and Martin Starr's character, Bill Haverchuck. Bill like kind of looks at it, and he gets some of the ire from Alan, and Neil Schreiber just keeps his head down, doesn't look, and after they leave, he's like, "You guys don't make eye contact. I know where Alan's going. I know what classes he's in. I know what paths he takes. I stay out of the way. That's how you deal with this." And I've kind of got that. I'm like, I know where these people are going to be. I know what problems they're going to cause. I'm going to go over there, and I'm not dealing with your dumb problems. So that was why I chose myself for Neil.
I love that guy too. Him and Wet Hot American Summer is great, and Not Another Teen Movie. Like, I love his nerdy character, like in anything that he does. It's wonderful.
Yep. For Josh, I definitely picked James Franco's character, Daniel Osorio. That's who I was thinking. Or no, I'm sorry. Nick Andopoulos. Sorry. I'm confusing some of the freaks. Nick Andopoulos. You're
Jason
a music
Segel?
nerd. Yes, Jason Segel.
That is exactly who I chose for myself as well.
Yeah. I apologize. That's definitely who I meant. Music nerd. Kind of got some stoner vibes going on. Always relaxed. Always happy to have people around. That's who I chose for Josh.
You don't know me very well.
And I almost want to go with Mr. Rosso for Jesse, the guidance counselor, the guy in charge of the mathletes. That's just at the end of the episode, he's looking around at all the people, all the stupid kids dancing at homecoming dance. He's like, someday I just feel like I have the best job in the world. And that just kind of synced up with Jesse for me.
Big heart, I think, is what he's trying to say. Either that or he's
Sure.
making a lot of fun of me. I can't tell, but
Is that
it's
the
probably-
strong hand guy from Scary Movie 2, by the way?
No, that was Chris Elliott?
Because he sure looks like him.
It's not him. It's not the same. actor.
Okay.
Josh, go ahead. You said that you had. I appreciate that, Ricky. I think my favorite moment was when Lindsay told him, "Hey Jeff, I'm gonna go dance," and he was like, "Oh, you should not call me that in public or anymore ever again."
Probably
Because
call me Mr. Rosso from now
he
on.
realized the optics of that pretty quick and was like, "Oh, this is bad." Even in 1980, Jason Segel is the best. He is making my current How I Met Your Mother watch bearable. I still can't watch that show, Aaron. I'm sorry. Rona, thank you. That's very sweet.
I gotta really I gotta just ignore all of what you guys just said. Sorry. How I Met Your Mother is one of my favorite sitcoms of all time.
Okay, so Josh, do this segment. Which character are you, and which character are we?
So for me, I also chose Jason Segel, and it's because of his first line in the show when he's talking about I saw God and his name is John Bonham. Like that is totally something I would have said about some pop punk emo band in the early 2000s. You know, like I met God and his name is Travis fucking Barker. You know, it would have been something stupid, but you know. For me, Ricky, it was the kid that threw the dodgeballs at what's
Giant
Neil's
fat guy.
at Neil's. No, just
Okay.
because he was such a dick
Bully.
about it.
He's
Okay,
talking
Alex.
about
Because
bully.
he threw the balls at his balls, and I was like, that's totally something Ricky would do. Like he would just, and not just once, but twice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally something you would do is throw the balls twice.
Just quick little tidbit. They shot this episode in 14 days. They spent 1.5 days on that 3-minute dodgeball scene.
Nice.
And the director of photography from The Matrix shot that.
Interesting.
Wow.
They got the guy
It
from The
wasn't
Matrix
very-
to shoot that dodgeball scene.
It wasn't very Matrixy,
Didn't
but
feel
whatever.
that impressive. I mean, like not like it was a good dodgeball scene, but I wasn't like, whoa.
Yeah,
I
I
was just
really
like-
like the scenes where they were like pinned up against the wall and the cameras going all crazy. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but okay. So here's a question before we go to Josh's pick for me. Did you guys ever have to play like violent dodgeball? in
Yes.
school?
All
Did
the
we?
time.
Sixth
What?
graders versus the 8th graders.
I
Yeah,
don't remember
man.
doing that.
How do you
Don't
not
remember
dude?
that.
I got hit in the face so many times by dodgeballs in middle school and high school. Like,
Hmm.
eesh. Those rubber balls. I'm pretty sure some of my glasses got broken a couple times in middle school, and my dad yelled at me, and I was like, "What?"
He's like, it's not called face smash ball, Josh. It's called dodgeball.
"Yeah,
We had
anyways,
those awful foam balls that were covered in latex paint, and they always got like all weird and
Oh, yeah.
shreddy.
and they like picked
Yeah.
apart. Yep.
Yeah.
And those were really easy to throw because you could just sink your hands into it.
And it
Mhm.
would,
It's just really.
your whole hand would be red though after you. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, now I remember
Yeah.
that. I must have blocked that out.
This is going to be so much nostalgia this episode.
Yeah, and a
I do
lot
want
of
to.
trauma.
I want to agree with Meg about How I Met Your Mother. It did destroy itself.
No,
that
I
last
don't wanna
season
talk
was-
about
was
that
really
show,
bad.
Josh.
I'm
Talk
just
about-
agreeing. I'm just saying right now
No.
that's. I
No.
just want to close it out.
Pick
My
a
last
character for
thing
me.
for you, my character that I picked for you, and it's only because this guy seems like the trickiest of Trekkies, but Harris Trinsky, played by Stephen
love
Lee
Harris.
Shepard.
Yep.
He's the weird little
I-
savant character.
the one, the one that's like very what's the right, I can't even think of the right word, but the way that he's trying
Philosophical?
to exactly, there you go, perfect. The way that he's trying to explain to Sam how to deal with his bully.
Talking
was
about
like,
the
that's-
conundrum that he had suffered and using it as like,
Preston
oh, I have
conundrum.
this. Yeah, he's like, I have
Correct.
this
Correct.
academic proof that I wrote about bullies. It's called the Cressman conundrum. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And watching that scene, I was like, oh, that's totally Jesse right there. He would
I could
he
see
would do
that.
that.
I could see that. So I think it's my turn. Meg, I'm sorry. I don't want you to ever feel like you are not
Thumbs up,
allowed
Meg.
to bring something up in my live chat. I just prefer you to be more thirsty and less How I Met Your Mothery. Callie says, "What the American F?" Which might be our episode title right there, ladies, gentlemen, and the emperors in the live chat and listening out in podcast land. Rona says 6th graders versus 8th graders is nothing compared to boys versus girls, especially when the guys are all rugby players. Rugby players, I think is how they pronounce that. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Meg says it was freshmen versus seniors, and the freshman girls won because we brawled, because the seniors tried to beat us up. I think Meg might be drinking. Anyone else think Meg might be drinking in the live chat?
You can ask me that at any point in time, and I'm going to go probably.
I also think Meg was probably one of those scrappy girls that was like, "Oh, you hit me in the face with a dodgeball. I will see you with the flagpole."
Rona says, "See above comment." Meg, it's Ricky's birthday. Send the thirst to Ricky. I thought that was clear.
I'm not thirsty for children. I just think Cindy Sanders is very, very beautiful.
Okay. But here's the thing, right? Okay, so when you were watching this, you went, "Oh, I remember as a kid thinking a girl that looked like her was beautiful."
Yes.
Right? Like they cast a good actor for that. Like I think it's just long hair. Honestly, when we were kids, it was like, whoa, her hair is long. She must be older than me.
Well, Lindsay, I still have a crush on Linda.
Oh, okay.
On Hawkeye's wife.
This doesn't surprise me at all, Josh, because my pick for me was Lindsay Weir, because I was that person in high school that had like friend groups in multiple
areas,
interest circles, right? And never they would overlap ever. But I was allowed to freely move through them. I was in wrestling, and I was in theater, and I didn't get beat up for it. And I was in like video. So it was like, I was one of those, I don't know what they're called, the social butterfly, I think is the word for it.
I believe so, yeah.
So Meg says,
social slut, maybe?
That's probably a better word for it. Meg says, I'm so sick, so I'm only drinking a little. I really
sick,
like that.
So only drink.
Our friend Callie says, well, Hawkeye wife is hot. That is true. And okay, I really love Linda Cardellini in Grandma's Boy. Grandma's Boy is a guilty pleasure movie for me. I know that it's a stupid movie, but I love it unabashedly in so many ways. And I think that like the essence of you and I, Josh, is how we feel about that movie. Like that's where you and I differ, like in our core. It's not the Star Trek or the Star Wars thing. It's how we feel about Grandma's Boy.
It's Grandma's Boy. I have that same thing with a couple other friends in Step Brothers.
Well, it's because and this friend too. Jeez,
I hate that movie. I fucking hate that movie.
So
I'm sorry.
yeah, my pick for me is Linda Cardellini. Lindsay Weir. My pick for Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, I was gonna go with I can't remember the main kid's name. I know I can see the actor's name. Sam, thank you. I was gonna go with Sam.
John Francis Daly.
Because to me, I remember in high school, I hung out. Okay, spoiler alert. I hung out with these two guys in high school, like both of them. Okay, which means they hung out with me. So if I say something here that is not true, they will call me out. But I feel like when I was in high school, my perception of Ricky was him like standing on the edge of what we were talking about and laughing very loud and being like, "Here's the better version of that. I have the version of that.
Let me punch that up for you."
Yeah, let me punch that up. But like, also, I'm here if you want to like have a conversation. But he also is just slightly confused most of the time. Like, not in a mean way. I think we were all slightly confused in high school, and I think that's the beauty of these characters, right? Is we can all see pieces of ourselves in all of the characters, of course. But if we were boiling them down, Josh, if I were gonna boil you down, I think you would be Busy Phillips. Like I knew you a long time, right? But then but then I didn't know you for a while, and then you came back to high school and you were like new and dangerous because you had been to another state, and you were like you're like, "Man, I've done stuff you can't even imagine. Like I've had cigarettes and things." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, smoking isn't cool." So
I had cigarettes. So my weird thing about high school is I went to two different high schools. So I went to, and I had two different like personas basically, because at Thompson Valley in Loveland, Colorado, which is where I started high school there. Like I born and raised in Loveland, blah blah blah. So I started there. I went to Thompson Valley for about the first half of freshman year,
Go
and then I
Eagles.
left. And I would, and here we go, because black and gold, right? Yeah, black and gold. Yeah, cool. So then I move, and I'm like, sweet. Just remember the black and gold thing. I'm like, cool. I get to go to a new high school, and I go to this new high school, and all of a sudden, I'm like this mysterious kid from Colorado that everyone wants to get to know. That like in Thompson Valley, I was the nerdy kid that got picked on a lot. My shoes got thrown on the roof a few times by some bullies. Like I got picked on a lot in Colorado. And then I go to Nebraska, and it was a complete flip of the switch. And I like got into a band, and all of a sudden I was like the cool kid. So I got two different aspects of high school because not only did I come out here, but then I went back to Loveland for 6 months, and then back to Nebraska for the rest of high school. And like it was a really weird kind of push and pull thing that happened to me in my high school years, and I got a lot of different perspectives for sure.
Well, and so when you came back, I would say you were Busy Phillips because you had really long hair and your coat was
Yep.
too big, and you were like
The
kind
black
of in
hair
people's
and
faces and stuff. And I was like, what is he
Yep.
doing? Like this kid is like tiny, like in the
I was
nicest
very
way.
I was very confident because I had just gotten from a place that boosted my confidence like 100%. And so I get
Yeah.
back to Colorado, and it only took about a month to be like, oh yeah, these people still hate me.
Okay, so let's catch up on this beautiful live chat. Okay, so Rona says in 2002 I turned 40, so I could mother this whole cast. And Meg says I graduated in 2002. Callie says I finished my first year of elementary school in 2002. Josh, you are
man.
still the mysterious kid from Colorado we all want to know and cool as crap to see. But he's not in
Aw,
Colorado
thanks.
anymore, Rona. You have to go further east to get to him now.
I'm back in Nebraska again.
But Ricky D, good segment, man. I liked that. I think that was a good baseline, figure out where everybody's at. Okay, I'm going to throw some names out there that I didn't know were in this show until right now. Shia LaBeouf plays the mascot. Rashida Jones, Karen Filippelli from The Office is in this. Lizzie Kaplan is in this. I noticed her name in the credits says Girl 1. I still don't know where she was, but I'm excited to see her in like 5 years. I really...
Leslie Mann.
Yeah. Like I said, oh, wow. I didn't know Leslie Mann was in this.
Judd Apatow's wife.
Yeah. Is this
Mhm.
where they met, maybe?
Probably. I don't actually know, but wouldn't be surprised.
Jason Schwartzman, David Krumholtz is in this. I mean, there are a lot of people in this that you know
It is
from other
a
things.
stellar cast.
Speaking of, I thought you said a Stiller cast. Ben Stiller is also in an episode or two.
Meg's going to be in Nebraska this year. That's interesting. Hit me up.
She's also
We'll go
going to
have
be
a
in
good time.
Colorado this year, Josh.
Go drinking some cornfields.
I just that's what they do out there.
Don't forget Goldberg from Mighty Ducks is in here.
Okay,
oh, that's right. What a mighty dick he was.
And so let's talk about this, you guys. If the three of us were hanging out, okay, and here's the thing. I don't think, Josh, once you got back to Colorado that you got bullied much, right?
Not as much. No.
Okay.
I skated. I was a skater
Yeah.
when I came back, so it was a little different.
Okay.
I went from click to click, kind of like you, but
Well, you drew hard lines. You were like, I hate this clique now. I'm in this clique.
yeah.
Oh, Meg, thank you for trying, though. We appreciate that. She says, Josh, there is literally nothing in Nebraska but you. I checked. It's
There's
not
like
true.
a couple other things.
Oh, you're
but-
good point, Rona. Josh is still from Colorado. That will never change.
Correct.
I guess that
Correct.
never changes. So okay, gentlemen, if we were hanging out now, okay, Ricky D, Josh, and we're in a real life social situation. I know it involves a little bit of imagination. We are in a real life social situation together, and somebody shows up that could definitely kick all of our asses individually, but maybe not if we all worked together. Ricky, you're muted. Given that setup, which role do you think which of us would inhabit? I personally think that nowadays I would be more of the uh, Sam Sam Levine character, like the Neil character.
Okay.
I think I would be more like, okay, let's avoid this. There's a lot of ways around this. I think that would be me more now. What do you? Which character would you guys identify with now as a semi-adult?
I would definitely be the guy that showed up to watch, but then got pulled into the fight.
And I would be the Martin Starr character, the one that's like, yeah, we're actually here to beat your ass, right, guys? Right? You got my back, right?
The only time I've ever been in a fight was 3rd grade. I got sent to the principal's office. There were other kids actually fighting. I jumped in and I started grabbing people's arms and spinning them around. And that was how I got involved. So
I was going to ask
basically
you
just
guys I
yeah.
was going to ask if you'd ever been in a fight. I have never once been in a real fight. I have been punched, but I have never thrown a punch. Jesse, have you ever been in a fight?
Okay, so yes. All of mine took place in middle school. So the first one I
Okay.
want to say was 6th grade, and in the school that I was in, the boys' bathroom, right when you walk in, there's a big mirror above the urinals. So like as you're standing at the urinal, you can see people coming in behind you, right? So I'm standing at the urinal and I see somebody coming in behind me, and it's one of those urinals that's constantly just got water flowing. So this kid comes up behind me and he like puts his hands out like he's gonna push me, and I'm gonna my shirt is gonna hit the urinal water that's flowing, and then I'm gonna be covered in urinal water. And I'm like watching this kid walk up behind me, like, is this gonna happen? Is he gonna do it? Like, there's no way he would do it, right? Like, people don't just do that to people. And then he did it to me. But because I was like looking at him in the mirror, I just like aimed with the mirror, right? So like I did a full rotation, fist into face, like all the way around, and laid this kid out. Now, I think
Was
he
your
probably
wiener still out?
I think he probably would have just accepted that he had been hit in the face. Of course not, Ricky D. I was covered in urinal water, but I took a moment to zip myself up. Like, if you're gonna do anything, right? Because he's standing there laughing at me because now I'm covered in urinal water. So full rotation hit this kid in the face, and I think that if that had been the end of it, I think he would have been like, dude, that's fair, like, it's fine. But our teacher happened to walk through the door of the bathroom as I was connecting with his face, so all he saw was me just lay this kid out. And he picked me up immediately. It was like, detention. And I was like, I didn't do anything. And he went, that's not true. And I went, I suppose that's fair. So we both
This is
got
great.
detention for that.
This is awesome. Rona says in 1st grade, she had to stand in a corner for picking a fight with a 5th grader, a 5th grade boy. And then Callie says, does fighting your sibling count? Because then I have never been in a fight. And Rona says, Callie, liar, liar, pants on fire. I feel like there is a story there, and I would like to continue hearing about it. But I could
Please-
totally see you turning around and just socking some guy in the
Please
face.
put that in the live chat if you have it. So the other thing that happened to me, I was in a hallway in, I think, 7th grade, and some kid like tackled me from behind. It was like, I am going to strike you repeatedly now, but I don't know why this is happening. but like I do have to hit you until somebody pulls us apart now because you've attacked me. And you know,
Right.
in middle school, it's like that's kind of all you have. Like you literally either sink or swim. You could die. So I was like, I'm just gonna swing for the fences at all times. I didn't get into any fights after that, and in fact, most of my life I have been the hey, let's not fight these people. Hey, let's leave before the cops show up, sort of a person. And I have friends that can attest to that.
I'm more like the Chihuahua, where I just bark a lot, and then eventually someone kicks me, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
I've had a
But-
few parking lot like, fuck you, what are you gonna do? Come on. And they just kind of shout
yeah.
at me. Like one time some guy almost hit me coming into a little parking lot complex. So I was just like, dude, you drive like an asshole. And he starts coming at me. But it always ends up with, what, you're not gonna hit me? No, I just wanted you to know you're a dick. That's all I need to do. I don't need to swing at you. I just need you to know you're a dick.
Right. And I think that's what growing up is, right? Like that's all growing up is going, I just want that person to know that the loathing that I have for them is pure and unadulterated and cannot be stifled no matter what they try. It's the pure hatred of 1,000 suns.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, when
okay.
I was in middle school, I'm pretty sure I said at least once, and I'm 103 pounds, thank you. 'Cause I was a very tiny kid in middle school and like
Josh,
could not hold my own.
are you 103 pounds now? I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. You are very, very thin. You have a figure that a lot of people would be jealous of. To that point, I was
I'm at,
on,
you know I'm actually 150 pounds. Just saying.
I
Did you know
believe
that?
you. When I was on, I had a moment when I was on Cheap Seat Reviews, the podcast that reviews the Hollywood film industry for the greater good, talking about the classic movie, The Princess Bride, which, by the way, has
What a good episode that was.
yeah, since become their 20th most downloaded episode
What a-
ever. If
what a
you
good
haven't listened
episode.
to it yet,
Out
go
of
check it
20?
out of 385
400.
plus. Yeah, they've been going for like 8 years. Anyways, Sean said, "You're a skinny guy, and skinny guy is this, that, and the other thing." And I was like, I don't know that I've ever been referred to as a skinny guy in my
Have
life.
you met
and then
my
I thought,
co-host?
oh, it's because I'm always standing next to Josh. That's why no one has ever called me skinny. So I blame that on you. And
Ouch.
it is a
Sorry about
compliment.
that.
No, it's 100% totally cool. I think I'm comfortable with who I am now, you guys. So now let's get back to high school. Ricky, I didn't ask if you were comfortable with who I was. Let's get back to high school. So this kid, this show, right? It's the setup that you've seen 100 times. It's not now. It's 20 or 30-ish years ago. You guys, it's actually closer to 40 or 50 years now, but
It's
'cause it
42
takes-
years ago because it was
Yeah.
1980.
yeah. So, but like the setup, right, is nostalgic level of years ago. And it's all high school, but it's just like every 8 to 9 years another one of these goes on TV and goes, yeah, but this is what it was really like and kind of unfiltered, right? I really feel like this show captured some of that. But do you think maybe one of the reasons that it didn't last? Like, was it too unfiltered? Was it too like, I mean, not to be that guy, but was it too real for people? Like, was it too like, this is uncomfortable because I can see myself in these characters and I don't like introspection. The mind is a den of scorpions best left undisturbed. And introspection is not good.
I hate to be that guy, but I feel like the show might have been a little bit too early. Also, I do have a little bit of information. I watched the director commentary, and they mentioned why they thought the show was canceled. And so I've got a little bit of thoughts on that. I guess I got some of Judd Apatow's thoughts on that. So the character Eli, there's the moment where he's on the bleachers with Goldberg, and Goldberg's kind of making fun of him. And Lindsay comes up, and she's trying to be nice to him, but she actually, in the process of being nice to him, she brings up a word that I guess isn't very appropriate. So she upsets Eli, and he goes running away, and he falls off the bleachers and breaks his arm. And then they go to commercial. That was about the halfway point of the episode. In between those two commercial breaks, they lost 3 million viewers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Are you like they could just measure that exactly? That's insane.
Yeah, so they lost 3 million viewers because they took this compromised character and he broke his arm, which was very difficult for a lot of people to see, and they all decided to watch Cops instead.
It's
Where
still
you'll
difficult to
never
this
see
day to
something
watch.
like that ever. Wow. That's crazy to me. Like I really feel like that moment is so integral to this episode as far as like the character arc that Lindsay is on.
Yeah,
And-
Eli is a very important part of her character arc in this episode, definitely.
And to have like, dude, that just makes me so mad at people who watch TV. Like
Yeah.
it makes me feel like people are like, oh, I don't want to think, or like, oh, now there's like what is it? Because like
It makes me uncomfortable, so I don't want to be put in that sort of self-realization
Meanwhile,
situation.
we're on season 40 of American Idol.
yeah,
ER
Right.
got 107 seasons.
Jersey
Law and
Shore just got
Order.
some new seasons.
yeah, and Aaron makes the a very good elaboration on that point. She thinks that these shows, also the show like My So-Called Life, were canceled because they were too real. If both had been around during streaming days, I bet they would have survived. Yeah,
Yes.
there'd be 8, 9
I agree.
seasons of this show now.
Totally agree.
And I would argue though that like every year now you get 8 or 9 attempts at a show like this, but it's easy to see why, right? So to that point though, like her character is, I mean, that's the emotional core of this episode for me, easily. I would think that's meant to be the emotional core of the episode, but like to have her go, you know, all I'm trying to do is go from person to person and just relieve a little bit of their terrible day. And most of the time I end up screwing that up is like, I mean, it's pretty, I guess you could say it's ahead of its time for a cis-het white female character to realize that making issues about herself is not the way to go about helping people solve them. Like that's pretty advanced progressive thought for, you know, the year that it was 2002. So, or wait, was this 2000?
99.
Yeah, 99.
Wow. Man, this is an old show. It looks really good. It looks like it could have been shot today. Like, I think watching it, that was one of the things that struck me, is that it looks very modern. But yeah,
I think it might look, but it sounds this. You can tell by the sound that it's from the 90s, and that's
Yeah.
probably just me.
Oh yeah.
But
No,
like,
100%. And I
it's
think that Ricky makes a good point, because it's like, man, if 3 million people are going to go, "Oh, I feel challenged by this content. I don't like it," then yeah, they're probably not going to like the rest of this show. Like,
well, and
at
it's
all.
it's also a testament to like how this show really makes you think about things. Because I mean, look, when we were in school and stuff, this kind of situation has changed immensely through the years. Since you know, when we graduated high school, since you know, after that, this kind of interaction never happens anymore. Whereas like in the 80s and 90s, these kind of interactions would happen way more, and you would see these kind of scenarios. You know, you'd see a people picking on a mentally disabled person just because of the way they are, and it's super awful to like look back on that and be like, oh my gosh, like how could these people do that? But it's good to like watch a show like this and be like, wow, they're really bringing to light how terrible people were back then, and
When
like
I
how much we have grown since then.
Yeah. When I was in middle school, we had some special ed kids in choir class, and a lot of people made fun of them. And one day
messed up.
one day I got into it, and I made fun of one of the guys, and I still look back to this day and I get goosebumps, and I feel like a dirt bag just because I made fun of somebody because they're special ed. It was
I take it
Yeah.
back.
And it's
That's what growing up is looking at things you did in the past and going, God, I suck. Like, I
I'm
hope I'm
very
a
mature
better
these
person
days.
now. Yeah. That's the number
And
one
it's-
adjective I use to describe you, Ricky D.
it's a hard thing to like look back on too, because in the moment when you're around all those other kids and you're trying to be cool and you're trying to impress people and you're just trying to like fit in, you know, it makes sense when you're 12 years old, 13 years old. And then when you get to this point in your life, you're like, wow, holy shit, I was an asshole. And I'm so proud of myself for not being that person anymore, because there are people out there that are our age in their 30s, 40s that are still like that still treat people like that. And it's really disappointing to see that people haven't grown up, you know? So it's great to know that you've grown from that, Ricky, and that you know you realize that it's not a cool thing, you know.
I think,
But again,
I'm having a realization. I think Ricky D's admitted Schadenfreude comes from him knowing that the people that are going through the terrible things he's watching them go through probably deserve it. He's like, yeah, they were probably terrible when they were kids.
Definitely. There's a giant chance that person's a massive douchebag, and they deserve this horrible thing happening to them. Yeah, I hope it ruins your kids.
Look inward, my son. Yes. So, okay, let's talk about Freaks and Geeks.
What?
So
Are we
yeah,
not?
I don't. Did you? Wow. This is what I love about our show, you guys, is that we can talk about this, and it is entirely within the context.
While we're on that
Freaks and
subject, though,
Geeks.
I really feel like the whole Eli situation character is a reason, and I brought up a few reasons why this show would not make it today. Like
Ooh,
if
you have a
they were to
list?
release this today, one of those top reasons that it wouldn't work with people is Eli. Another reason would be the excessive amount of bullying that you see throughout this show. Bullying is like super frowned upon. Personally, me, I think some kids need to be bullied. Just saying. But like another reason is that one moment with Seth Rogen where he smacks that girl and she's like, "You creep," and he goes, "What? Your butt was calling to me." Like, that's another reason you're just like, "Oh man, that's not."
But it's like it could still be in a show now to illustrate, like, look at this absolute creep. Like that character would be, the worst character in the episode. But
I
he
think
would
in
be
Freaks and Geeks, though, they were looking at it as it was funny. What he
Right.
said was supposed to
That's
be
yes.
funny.
That's a good point. What else do you have on your
and
list?
and it just wouldn't it wouldn't work. That was it. That was it. Oh well, the guy in
Teenagers
town,
smoking
he's kind of
on campus.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I smoked on campus though, at the corner at Thompson
I was
Valley.
gonna say there was a
It wasn't
corner.
on campus, but
Go
Smokers
Eagles.
Corner. Anyone
We have
watching or
a-
listening from Thompson Valley, you remember the Smokers Corner?
We have a Megan says sometimes public shame is necessary, but kids can't read a room. That is very
Yep.
well put, Meg. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's see. I don't think that I was ever bullied in school. Like
No, because you were the bully.
I don't know that I was ever a bully.
No, you were
like
you
I
were
obviously
you were
made
like
fun of
you said.
yeah, and Ricky and our friends. But like I don't know that I don't believe anybody would have considered me a bully. If I'm wrong, I would prefer one of you to
No,
correct
like
me.
you said, you were friends with everybody. Like there was no bully bone in your body. I, on the other hand, was a bit of a bully sometimes, especially going back and forth from places, finding different confidences.
I've
And
been
I
to
had-
Alaska.
I had
Oh,
the
dude,
wor-
what a loser I was.
I had the worst time on the school bus in middle school. I was at the last stop that showed up. We got high schoolers on the bus, and I was in middle school. I was on the last stop, and I had two friends on the bus, but they sat together. So I was singled out. I got sent all the way into the back of the bus with all the high schoolers. There was one enormous guy. He looked like the big guy playing dodgeball. He looked like that guy. He'd sit sideways on the seat, and he'd just push me off the edge. The whole ride, he'd just slowly push me off the edge. And then the bus driver would go, "Everybody sit down. Everybody sit down. You in the back, sit on the seat." And this guy would just keep pushing me off the edge. And the bus driver would yell at me. And my brain was boiling because I wanted to follow the rules. And this guy wasn't letting me follow the rules. And I'm just in middle school. And there's nobody to help me on the bus.
Man, I think Ricky D, that you and I may have recognized in one another when we first met our love of following rules. We're like, man, do you know how much fun it is to not get in trouble? Our friend Brittany Robinson has joined the live chat, ladies and gentlemen. She says, I think we can all agree that the middle school is a pretty miserable time for most kids. 100%.
So,
Josh,
I just started a job at a middle school, and I can attest to the fact that even 20 years after being in middle school, it is still a miserable place to be.
Well, probably for a series of different reasons right now, but yes, I think that's pertinent. I gotta point this out. Our friend Aaron says, I smoked on campus. We had a smoker's hill right in between our buildings, and teachers allowed it, but I went to an artsy alternative school in Boulder. I know you don't sound like that, Aaron. I just couldn't help myself. I honestly, 100%, this is not a joke or anything, Aaron. I legitimately picture you in my head as Jane from Daria. You're like, in school, you would have been that much cooler than I was, and just like impossibly like intelligent compared to me, who would have been like what is her brother's name? Trent. He's like, whoa.
Trent.
We should do a Daria podcast, you guys. So
They're bringing that show back, by the way.
they are. Meg says I just smoked off campus. So yeah.
Technically, I was off campus too. The Smokers
I-
Corner was off campus.
Aaron, I know
but-
you weren't saying it in that voice. I just explained this. Wow. I love you, and I hope you understand that was all meant in a most respectful tone. Now, you guys, where are we in this show? We've had a bully, we've had a dodgeball going on, we've got Linda
Broken
Cardellini.
bones.
What's going on?
haven't talked
with
about-
this? Go ahead, Josh.
First crushes. Mr. Sam gets his coat
Oh.
delivered by the cheerleader, and all of a sudden, she likes him, and he's in love with her. And I
Jesse.
find that funny because that's exactly what happens in, high school when, oh my God, a girl talked to me. A girl remembered my coat. That's my coat. She must like me. I need to ask her to the dance.
So
ahead.
I
you guys
don't
have any
know-
like crushes that you like did that with where
Hold on.
maybe they
before
brought
Ricky
you your
loses
pen
his
back?
train
I'm
of
sorry.
thought, because it will happen. It's okay.
Oh, okay. I don't know if Jesse knows this, but we're not quite Eskimo brothers, but we are Eskimo step cousins. I believe
Go on.
that we have touched the same boob.
Okay. I don't know that. Okay. I was trying to figure out how the step cousin relationship worked, but I was.
I'm
like,
just
ooh,
it's a
ooh.
further relation.
So yeah. Here's let's see. What's the most respectful
Consensually.
way? Yeah, let's-
Consensually.
oh yeah, it wasn't like, hey, there it is, let's both touch it. Let's see. What's the most respectful way I can phrase this? Josh and Ricky and I all went to the same school, and there were not that many students at that school. So like the dating population had a lot of overlap. Let's put
And
it
you
that
had
way.
good taste.
800 kids
And
there.
I have good taste. Thank you, Ricky D. I totally agree with you. Josh, were you asking, did we have any crushes that were based on the impossibly small thing?
Yes, like your first crush in high school or something. Was it based on some stupid small like person touched your hand when you went to go pick up the notebook that the bully slapped out of your hand or something like that? Like,
I've got one if you want to think for a moment, Jesse.
Go for it.
6th grade. We're going into middle school for me a lot. But 6th grade, the girl that had the locker right next to me, major crush on her. Probably just because I got to see her every day.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I was putting notes in her locker. Only like 3, I think. But I was putting notes in her locker, and I figured she was getting them and ignoring them, and then I backed off. But then the last day of school came, and we're all cleaning out our lockers, and she's right next to me, and she pulls up these crumpled pieces of paper from the bottom of her locker, and she starts reading them. And I could clearly tell it's the notes that I shoved in her locker like 4 months ago. And I just looked at her. I go, I'm over it. And I just walked away.
Dude, I'm embarrassed right now. What the fuck?
amazing. That's amazing. I was the kid that like took and this was in middle school too, but I wrote, we had dances in middle school and high school, and like I took a note that I wrote to a girl that I liked, and like I wrote, "Will you go to the dance with me?" and had her name on there and stuff.
Yes or
And
no? Check one.
Well, yeah, but she said no, so I erased her name on the note and wrote someone else's name and gave it to that person and kept doing it till I got called out. I eventually got called out as there's somebody else's name behind my name here. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Wow.
That's pretty bad. I just wanted to go to the dance with someone. No one ever wanted to go to the dance with me.
That is the most intense secondhand embarrassment I have felt in a long time. Ricky D. Like, that was a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing that with us. Wow. Meg, no, Ricky D did not touch his cousin's boob. What he was referring to was the term Eskimo brother, which is where two people have slept with the same individual. He was saying Eskimo step cousin because the whole
It's just
way
a
was
further
not gone.
relation.
Yeah. A more remote relation, I think, is the term.
Yeah.
Callie says, Ricky, what? Callie also says, I was once known as the girl that had dated every guy in her class while spreading people that failed to message there were only 2 guys in our class. I married one of them. Oh, that is fair.
I feel like that happens.
The details matter. Yes, 100%. I
Boys are weird.
you guys, I have to guess that like every crush that I ever developed or acted upon or like relationship that I initiated probably maybe my entire life was because she laughed at something I said. Like that has to be all it came down to. Because I'm
like, oh, she thinks I'm funny.
oh, she knows I'm fun. No, she has a good sense of humor, is what that means. So, as Ricky said, I have good taste. So I didn't say that; he said it. I like I said, I'm known for being a certain way on our podcast, and I wouldn't want to disappoint our very hateful, angry listener who leaves us.
Well,
negative
speaking of
reviews.
girls, they're freaking vicious, and this show really, really emphasizes that.
Yeah.
That blonde girl is, I don't want to
Kelly?
say the word, but good Lord.
My high school girlfriend was definitely a Kim Kelly.
Like,
She's just
you
angry at
dated
her
the girl that
parents.
when you dated the girl that dumped other girls' purses out and stuff?
Not quite that vicious, but
Oh,
just a
man.
lot of internal anger and displacing it on the world.
Yeah.
And you were hoping that most of that would get displaced on you?
Yeah,
Or-
I was going to fix her. I was
Oh,
going to make
gotcha.
everything better.
I thought maybe you also had like
Right.
a little bit of like a sadomasochism thing going on. I don't know. Maybe that goes with Schadenfreude.
No,
I don't
it's
know.
mostly just she was having problems and I was going to fix her. I was going to make everything okay.
Man, I love you, Ricky.
Oh, the
D. I
things
feel
that go
really
through your
bad
head in
now.
high school.
Yeah. So the did you guys ever play 7 Minutes in Heaven? There's a 7 Minutes in Heaven chat going on. I never played that. Like,
No,
I did.
man. I was such a loser in college. I would hang out with people at parties and they would play
Spin the bottle.
Spin the bottle, something like that. And I would hang out on the edge and just crack jokes and not even play with them. I had a girlfriend at the time, but still, spin the bottle. Who gives a crap? But yeah, I just
Spin the
stood on the
bottle.
outside. Like I could have made some progress if I wanted to get involved with that, but I was like, germs? No, I want to.
Ricky
kiss
wanted to
random
follow the
girls."
rules.
Yes.
Dude, speaking of
Yes.
following the rules, Spin the Bottle was the first time that I ever kissed a boy because it landed on a boy and everyone in the room was like, oh, no, you have to. It was like when a girl spins and it lands on another girl and all the guys are like, oh, like it. The same thing happened to me and my buddy. And you know what? Whatever.
I have a very good longtime friend that when I was first becoming friends with him, somebody said something about like, what are 2 guys gonna kiss then? And he like jumped into their conversation, was like, hey, that's okay if it's to get 2 girls to kiss. And I was like, nobody said anything about that, man. Like, but all right, like it was. But I mean, he's one of the most confident people I have ever met in my life, and he did it for comedic effect specifically. Callie says Spin the Bottle was the worst, second only to Truth or Dare. Truth or Dare was stupid in high school because kids would go Truth and they'd be like, do you think I'm cute? And they'd be like, I mean Dare, and then they would go, I dare you to tell the truth. And it's the dumbest thing.
Stupid.
In
But I
college,
did understand the assignment. Thank you, Meg.
Meg says, in college, we moved on to Never Have I Ever. I like that game. That is a fun game.
Those, yeah.
Do you guys want to play Never Have I Ever? Okay. So we had
I don't think you want to test those calls, bud.
we have a dance happening. Okay. Dances are always portrayed in media as this huge stress thing, this huge like social anxiety generator, and like you have to have a date or you going to the dance, everybody's going to the dance. I think I went to maybe like 5 dances ever in high school, maybe.
Yeah.
Like
I never went to prom.
Did you go to Ricky? I'm pretty sure you were in the group of people that I went to prom with, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I also went to homecoming with them a couple times, but
again,
that's
not
about
with
it.
me, but like in a group of people with me. Yes. Josh, did you go to homecoming?
I did not go to homecoming at Thompson Valley. I did go to homecoming in Nebraska, but that was the only. I went to one, and that was it. I never went
So
to any other dances.
I can't ask anybody
Wait.
here because it wouldn't work for us. But ladies in the live chat, have you ever asked somebody to a Sadie Hawkins dance? I was asked
my
to one
khaki
of those
pants.
one time, and as Ricky had alluded to, there are some things that you still feel bad about the way that you handled when you were a kid, and this is a thing that gives me just an intense internal shame that I don't really want to talk about. So I'm not going to. But I would like to know if you. Meg says, one day
Wow.
when I have more time, I'll tell you about going to prom with a guy and his girlfriend. Spoiler alert, I married him. Like at
Callie,
prom? Because damn.
the Sadie Hawkins dance is when the girls ask the guys
Yeah.
about
yeah.
to the dance. So
Which,
and
to be
we actually
clear-
had middle school dances. We had like 4 dances a year in middle school,
and I never
which
went to
was
those.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, ever. Well, Erin went to a fancy art school in Boulder, so she didn't have Sadie Hawkins dances. They
Of
probably
course.
had like Georgia O'Keeffe dances that all the parents like protested against. Lot of long flowing gowns at that dance.
So Jesse,
Yes.
I'm gonna pull away from the show again. Talk about high school. Do you remember when we stripped all the caution tape off of a bunch of barriers, and we started putting like caution tape headbands and sashes, and we made like basically clothes out of caution tape, and because they were black and gold, just like our school colors, and we would stand in the audience, and we would basically run the cheers.
I believe that actually caught on and stayed for a couple of years past us.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, well, you remember going to the football games, like people would start doing it because we were doing it.
Yeah.
And then it was, I mean, like, you know how high schoolers are. Once there's a thing, they're like, I want to do the thing. You know, so.
And then we found you could buy caution tape at Home Depot. Like we had never considered the idea that caution tape wasn't like a specialty government item.
Yeah, you have to have some kind of license for that so that you're not just like caution taping off like some important zones, right? Like you can't just determine your own zones as a child. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, we did do that thing. It was incredibly uncomfortable, but like as 3 guys who have a podcast together, there is nothing like the thrill of knowing that other people consider you entertaining, right? Like there's just something about that. Like, even if it's because they're hate watching you or hate listening to you, and I can't believe you left us that review, you jerk. But like, it's like that thing is so intrinsic to the 3 of us, right? Like, we have always been trying to entertain a crowd in front of us since high school. Like, for Josh and I, it goes back even further than that, but it's really cool, I think, that we get to have this chance to talk about this stuff because we're watching Freaks and Geeks. And I think that that's what's going to make doing this once a year a perfect format for Freaks and Geeks. Our friend Sean from Cheap Seat Reviews said, well, I hope your show lasts 18 years then. And I said, well, obviously now it will by design. So,
right. That's
like,
what we're doing, Sean.
Ricky D will not allow the show to die until Freaks and Geeks has been completed. So I am a genius, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're in it for the long haul, basically.
So we have some answers in our live chat. Aaron said 4 dances a year, LOL. Oh, sorry. Callie said 4 dances a year, and then Aaron said LOL. I feel like you're like being mean to people who are not there anymore. We were children. Leave us alone, Aaron. Megan says we didn't.
I think
call
Aaron's
them
laughing
though.
at the way you were making fun of her school and the protesting and the Georgia O'Keeffe thing.
Oh.
Yeah, just
Aaron,
to clarify.
I
Georgia
appreciate you so
O'Keeffe.
much. I think that, as I said to Aaron on Twitter the other day, I think that she and I have more in common than either of us would prefer. Megan, we didn't call them that. She says, Callie says, we had 2 dances in all of high school. Practice prom in year 9. Oh, that's so European. And practice a year later. Oh, I was going to say year 9 was very European, but I mean a practice prom, I guess. Meg says, Callie, we had at least 4, but not everyone could go to all of them. Meg had been banned from a couple of dances. You think you all know why. Rona says, we had 4 dances per term, 3 terms per year. Oh, they had trimesters. Did you guys ever go to a school that had trimesters? Blech. Do not like. But yeah, this is all very interesting jaunt down memory lane.
Yeah.
Aaron, I
God.
should have more faith in you. I'm sorry. I really should. And I'm not joking. And I promise from here on out, I will. That's a guarantee. So,
Can I ask you guys something? Did you have family dinners?
okay,
Because the
I will
family
field
dinners
this.
in this show are absolutely insane.
I will field this question. Yes. We
Okay.
specifically had family dinner every night, and you sat down at whenever it was ready. It was typically between a time and a time, right? There's like a range of times that it could start. And if you didn't want to eat, that was fine, but you would sit at the table with the family and talk. And then when everyone was done, then you would get up and go. My mom was very like, you're going to eat what I made or you're not going to eat, which in high school eventually became, well, then I'm not going to eat, which then I would go eat it later. But
You just eat.
yeah. Or yeah, I would just sit there and eat it. But I really do think that I never understood that tendency in television shows or like real life until I was a dad. And then it was like, dude, like, okay, so peek behind the curtain. I've been working overtime all week. I'm going back to work tomorrow after this show is done. And then I'm working overtime again next week. And even in a regular week where I'm not doing that, I'm like, man, I wish I had just a few more hours in the day to spend with my family. Like, just any few more minutes would be great. So I fully understand now that those are just dads grasping at their family, right? It is a sad thing, and it comes across that way, I think, a little bit. But this is masterfully done because they also use these exclusively for humor, right? Like this is the same joke from Arrested Development. That's why you always leave a note. You know, it's like, you know what happened to that
He
guy? He
died.
died. Yeah, like if you take your clothes off, you will get pregnant and die. So I I did have family dinners. No, my dad was not that guy.
Ricky, did you have family dinners?
Early in life, like the first half of
Okay.
elementary school, and then it all just devolved into eating in front of the TV. After like I was after 10 years old, the only time we ate together was Taco Thursday watching Survivor.
Taco Thursday watching Survivor at the Ricky D household, man, that is like a very, very specific vibe that for some reason I can very easily picture. Our friend Brittany is still with us. Says, I didn't have typical family dinners growing up, but we try to do it now with our kids. No phones, no TV during dinner. That is a brilliant idea and something that we have attempted. And I
You know,
chose the word attempted for a reason. It is
I believe
difficult to do with a toddler, as I'm sure that you know. But yeah, I think there's a huge value in it. Our friend Meg said that they still do it every night as well. But I definitely, I even looking back and going, there were some of those where I was like, why am I sitting here? I am
now you know.
beyond grateful that my folks did that, right? And I will try to do that with my daughter when she's a little bit more like receptive to that. Brittany
See,
says
in
I just
my
started recently. Excellent.
my family dinners were not the typical ones either. I believe, Jesse, you were there for a couple of them, or one of them, maybe just one. Most of my friends came over for dinner once, and that was it. Because when they came over for dinner, not only did they get to sit there and talk to my family, but then they got to sit there after dinner and read a devotional and a Bible verse and talk about why, you know, that devotion was prevalent to life
Yeah.
and
Which, if you're
stuff
not
like that.
expecting
So
it, can really throw you off. Like, if you thought you were just going over for dinner, that can throw you off. You feel a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
trapped, might be the right word for it.
yeah. So needless to say, I didn't
Especially
have a
when
lot of
you've never
friends
met
over
this
for dinner.
person. Yeah. Like, but 100%, I have met Josh's parents. Very sweet
Oh,
people.
they're great. They're great. I mean, they're great.
They're great.
There are just some
They're
there are just
great.
some weird things in my childhood and early years that I learned some things. They're great. They're great.
They're great. Yes, I no, seriously, 100%. Like the last time that I saw Josh's dad in particular, it was very like, I think it was the first time that I ever felt like I was respectable enough to be in the same room as him. So I was like, yes, accomplishment, right?
He's a lot.
Um,
He's a lot better now. We
but you know
got
that thing, like,
nice. You know,
have you ever had that
nice
thing with a
conversation.
friend's parent where you're like, I think they thought I was the bad kid, and now they like maybe now they know that I wasn't the bad kid. It was their kid that was the bad kid. Like,
Well, no, because I was always the bad kid.
oh,
Like it didn't matter.
good point.
All of
Actually, that's
all
true.
of my friends' parents were like, "You're hanging out with that kid again."
And-
That's yes, that's true.
I was never really a bad kid, but I was bad compared to the people I hung out with. Like all of their parents were doctors and lawyers, and they were all
Oh,
on the
yeah.
up and ups, and I was a little rough around the edges.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
say that Ricky D and I, we hung out with kids that were like
They all went to MIT.
galaxy brain kids, right?
Well, I
Very,
was gonna say,
very intelligent.
You guys were
kids,
the
yeah.
kids that were you would like bring your Xboxes to each other's houses and play Halo all night. Like, not
We
saying
were-
that's what you did, but that's something that like your group of friends, and that's not
Right.
that's a respectable thing in high school to do. Me, on the other hand, I was the type of kid that went out to lakes and got super drunk and did school all the time. So
No, these were kids like their parents were like, "Oh, you all want to be in one place with each other at our house? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like,
yeah.
that's totally fine." I mean, because like think about it. If you had a kid that was 15 and they were like, "Can my friends all be under your supervision?" You'd be like, "That sounds awful, but at least I will know where you are." So sure. Like, but they,
Yeah.
I think Ricky would agree with me. Like everyone we hung out with was smarter than us, but we
Oh,
were like,
yes.
we were able to. I think Ricky and I
Hold your own.
were. I think Ricky and I were arguably more socially intelligent than they were. So I think
Yeah.
it was a good balance where it was like we can help you guys feel like you're, cool,
Normies.
and yeah, and you can help us succeed in all ways, like at all times. And it wasn't like we tricked them, right? Like they were our friends.
yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and if they didn't want to, they could have just told us to go home. Like they had more money than we did.
Remember when we got Steven to be prom king?
Okay, yeah. So
That
there was a kid at
great.
our school who was very quiet, very socially awkward, never spoke to girls, like didn't want to date. He was
And
just
a
really
genius among geniuses.
beyond smart, right? And we thought it would be
McG? Are you talking about McG?
no, Stephen
Rosenberger.
will
Oh,
edit
okay.
all of this out, but
Blah, 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 blah.
he was the sweetest kid, and we were like, hey, what if we just told people to vote for him for prom king, because like that would be the way to go.
Oh, we
And it
made
was-
posters. We campaigned.
oh no, yeah, we got crazy with it, but like initially it was a joke. We were like, oh, that would be funny, and then we were like, no, let's go all the way, and it happened. Like my parents were the honorary parents to my friends. My parents were the honorary parents to my friends because they were so accepting and loving to everyone. Megan says, nodding at the TV like Jesse can see me. I love it, Megan. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think that I invited a lot of kids over for dinner either, Brittany. I know that there were, like, Josh had been to my house for dinner. I don't know if Ricky had been to my house for dinner.
Not for dinner. I know I've met your parents, but I don't think I ever had
Yeah.
dinner.
And it was that thing I was telling you about where it was like, dinner was like this, like we're all gonna sit down at the table and we're gonna talk, and I didn't want to be like, okay guys, here are the rules, so it was just like, oh, I'm not gonna invite people over for that. But I just yeah, I really, you guys, I'm really enjoying talking about this trip down memory lane with you as
I
it
mean,
relates
seriously,
to
though.
Freaks and Geeks.
Well, everything's
Uh,
been a train wreck since high school. At
but
least
we-
personally.
But to that point, like it felt like Ricky's prom king thing that he's talking about felt like a TV moment where everybody rallied around a kid that was not popular and went, he's a good person though. Let's make him popular, like by force. And it literally worked. Like the kid had a date to prom and was elected prom king. It's history. Like it happened. So it
That's
was very
fun.
cool.
I feel like my high school TV moment was at Thompson Valley when they tried to ban skateboarding.
Go Eagles.
And there was one day, like all of us skateboarders, there was like 50 of us, I think 40 or 50 of us that like protested. We all stood outside at the flagpole when school started with our skateboards, and they pulled us into the office. They pulled the top 10 people into the office, the leaders into the office, and we basically negotiated a deal with the principal that allowed us to be able to have our skateboards on premise, which was super cool. That was kind of my like TV high school moment, you know, like you go into like a courtroom and you have like an actual debate with someone about this is our way of life, man. We travel to school this way. You can't just take it away from us. What are you gonna make us walk from 6 blocks away?
Why is it so easy to picture Josh holding a skateboard going, "This is my way of life, man"? Callie says that sounds like a story Stephen will remember forever. Or tell his kids. I do wonder. Like I've actually lost track of him as a friend, as you do with people from high school. But I do wonder. Like that, it does feel like the kind of thing where you would go, "Oh, I actually kind of forgot about that." But yeah, that did happen. Like it happens to me when I go through my closet and I see my letter jacket. I'm like, "Oh, I have a letter jacket. I totally forgot about that." Like, look, there's my name on the back. Okay. Okay, you guys.
Did you guys go to the 10-year anniversary?
No, let's wrangle this back. There's a
Should we
lot
talk
of
about Nick's drum
people
kit?
that I don't. Yes, let's talk about
Absolutely.
the drum kit. Did you guys have to that point? Josh, I think yours was skateboarding. Ricky, did you have a drum
Drumming
kit?
though.
Well,
Mine was drumming
mean,
way more than
obviously.
skateboarding.
But I was gonna let Ricky go first because it's his birthday.
I would say writing for the newspaper, maybe. That was kind of a moment that I really felt proud of, and I often think maybe I could start writing again. That kind of
There's a
thing.
blog at twistmyarm.net.
Yeah, I should use it. But yeah, I would say newspaper was my drum kit, and obviously newspaper doesn't really exist anymore, so it would have to be a different type of writing. But the idea that other people were reading my stuff, that was important to me.
Dude, and that's totally like music for me. And I had that kind of drum kit. Like I wanted the biggest drum kit. I had my sweet set, and then I bought a bullshit like pawn shop kit to add to it, to where I had like these 2 kick drums and like 6 different toms going throughout the whole thing, and like cheap ass cymbals. Like Jason Segal's drum set is exactly what every high schooler's giant drum set looks like. It's just a bunch of pieces pulled out of the trash, put together to make a drum set. None of the cymbals are the same. Even the toms are different colors and stuff. It was such a like a memorable thing for me, because I had 2 different kits. One was red, one was white, and they like I put them together, and it just, I don't know, it definitely took me back. But my thing was music for sure, especially like when I left Colorado in high school and came out here. I got into like crazy bands, and like you were saying, Ricky, people reading your stuff is an incredible feeling. Like, you know, we had CDs sold in some of the local shops out here, and that was one of those, you know, we walk into the store and there's our CD, and it's like, oh my God, that's so cool, you know. So it definitely my thing was music and that.
That is, I think my favorite thing about that scene, and maybe the most unrealistic thing about that scene, is that as a high schooler, Jason Segal's character is still able to go, no, it doesn't have to be a drum set. Like that's not the point. Like that's just an example. Like if that were a real high schooler, he would go, "Are you sure you're not into drums? Like, drums are really sick. You should try these drums."
That's why he carries his drumsticks around the whole time, because he wants to make sure that everybody knows that he's a drummer.
You know, what I got from this is Nick, he's more excited about his drum set than he is about being able to play the drums. Like he does more talking about the drum set than he does playing on it. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a common creative thing, right? A thing for creative people is you're
especially
like,
early in
my tools. Yeah, exactly. You're like, I just have to have the right tools, and then I'll be able to create the magical thing. And the answer is actually no, just start doing the thing. And then by the time that you are good enough to use the tools that you want, you might have enough money to buy them.
And my dad, actually, when I told him I wanted to play drums, he was like, well, beat on your chest for a little while and keep a beat, and then maybe eventually we'll get you a drum set.
My dad was a bassist, so he said, "Learn to count to 4, and then we'll talk." My friend Megan Griffin in the chat says, "Ricky D, you're still a wee babe even after 21 trips around the sun." Just to clarify, Megan, he will always be a wee babe to us here at Sudden But Inevitable. Gentlemen, we are nearing the end of the episode chronologically. I think there's a dance happening. There was a fight that was supposed to involve all 3 boys, but then there was a meeting with a girl, and then there was this dance, right? And okay, we sort of glossed over most of the plot, but let's suffice it to say that Lindsay learns her lesson that her perspective, no matter how well intentioned it is not necessarily the correct perspective. I don't know anybody that learned that lesson in high school, personally. I know I didn't learn that lesson in high school, personally. But it is nice to see a character of that age have some agency and some, like, the ability to recognize, oh, my perspective might not be all there is, right? Because she really does. She's like, I'm coming from a good place. Like, how could this not be good? Meg, I apologize. I would have never said that to you, even in a live chat environment. That is rude, and I apologize for Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. She said, I love you. And he said, where's Carla? Please
Thank
go
you,
listen
Meg.
to
I love you.
Bedwed or Behead. It is character analysis with a fun twist. Find out which of your favorite characters are going to get a ring, a fling, or murder. That's right, Megan. I made it live. So, gentlemen,
Murderer.
is there anything else about this episode you feel we must discuss from a plot standpoint before we move into our selections for, like, favorite dialogue from this episode?
I don't think I've said the word mathlete yet.
I just was going to bring that up. I have mathletes, LOL.
I understand the idea of academic competitions and all of that, and they're great and important and helpful to the people involved. But the idea of calling them mathletes is so funny.
Well, okay,
yeah.
And the other thing is the the guidance counselor, right? I feel like he might be on that list of reasons the show would not fly now, because there's a little bit in the scene
Of
where
a creepiness.
where it's just him and Lindsay in the office, and we know, right? Like, we're like, there's nothing bad that's going to happen here. We've seen the show, but it's like, you could see now where people would be like, why is he alone with her in that office, and why is the door closed? And those are all fair questions to ask. And, why is he saying, why don't you call me by my first name? Like, okay, that's groomer behavior, right? Like, they would start freaking out, which would be the correct reaction. Let me reiterate that. But I do appreciate that the show wasn't going there, if that makes sense. Like, I'm glad they didn't write that character to be creepy, right? I like that he was just...
They're dealing with plenty of important issues. That one would be a little gross.
Yeah. And like, not even too real, but just unnecessary.
And they sure made it seem like it was going to go that way at first.
I don't think they did. I think that's our modern sensibility watching it.
Maybe you're right. Like, maybe you're right.
I think that's what it is, because
I think he is
for
Mr.
meant
Rosso.
to be. Yeah, I think he's meant to be, like, super, like,
he's like the teacher from Beavis and Butthead. Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna sit here and talk about love. Okay.
Or the counselor from Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But good point, Ricky. Thanks for saying mathlete. Do you? Meg says she's sorry. She tried to love you enough for both of them. And I told her not to apologize for love ever.
The
Josh,
gym teacher. Like, what
Mr.
a cliche.
Okay,
but
at
also
least...
every gym teacher ever.
He's got the ski last name, which makes him a gym teacher.
Dude, and he chooses dodgeball so he can watch kids throw balls at other people's nuts. Like, and that's the whole reason he chooses dodgeball.
And our friend,
hey, Rosie.
I have to point this out, our friend Rosie has arrived. She says, happy birthday, Ricky D. Rosie.
Thank you, Rosie.
One of our biggest supporters of all time. I do appreciate that the PE teacher was like, okay, You can't throw it at people's nuts. You're out. Like he still enforced the rule, right? And then
Right.
as the kid was
He
walking off,
laughed.
he was like,
I'm
but
creating Lord of the Flies in here, but don't hit him in the nuts.
right, like don't aim for the kid's balls. Like, throw the ball. Sure, yeah. But
Oh,
so
man.
I liked that little touch. It was very human, I thought. Human.
Yeah.
So do you guys have anything else you would like to bring up from the plot before we get into our selections?
The biggest thing of this episode that really kind of pulls you into like the heart part of it is when Lindsay starts talking about her grandma,
Yeah.
and like you kind of realize why she's going through the phase she's going through, right? Like in high school, I feel like there was always some sort of bit of trauma that made you change a little bit about yourself, and it seems like she used to be a mathlete. She was obviously one of those kind of nerdy geeky people, and then all of a sudden her grandma dies in such a traumatic way in front of her, basically, that like she just changed her whole perspective on things, and kind of went off. What did her friend say? Had her little brother ask her.
Millie asked her brother to ask her why she's throwing her life away.
Right, and it's not like she's throwing her life away. She's just having a hard time dealing with what she just had to go through with her grandma as like a 15-year-old.
And I kind of
Going
feel like
through
Lindsay
that?
was
Oof.
Millie just a few years ago. Lindsay and Millie
Right.
would have been very similar characters, and now they're very
Right.
different characters.
Well,
And on that topic, there were so many people in school that like if you were a really good friend with someone in elementary, and then you get to middle school or high school and you start kind of branching away because you meet different people or you go through different experiences, and then that other friend is like upset that you're going to hang out with other people. It's kind of how that relationship is going with Millie and Lindsay.
so the I thought it was interesting that she seems to. I think Ricky is right that. Excuse me. I think Ricky is right that Lindsay was Millie. Basically
Prior,
But
yeah.
to Josh's point, like, Millie isn't bad, right? She's just happy.
And
She's just
naive.
Naive is the word I'm looking for.
And worried about her friend that she was just doing
Right.
things with
Because
that
in
were
high school, mathletes could be your whole life, or the next 3 years is a sizable portion of your life mathematically. So it's like it feels like your entire life pivots on what happens in high school, and they do a great job of really imbuing that honest drama in these characters, right? Like high
Mhm.
school matters because it hurts and it is difficult and it sucks, but like you have to do it, and like you really will come out better for it. I mean, I can only speak from the perspective of somebody who's been through American public education, so maybe that's where I'm coming from. I mean, that's definitely where I'm coming from. I didn't know that the coach was Biff from Back to the
Oh,
Future.
I
Thank
didn't
you,
even
realize
Rosie.
that.
I'm
That's
kind of
awesome.
mad at Ricky for not pointing that out.
I
Like,
apologize.
It was his idea to watch this show, and he's like,
My
"I got all
bad.
these notes, you guys. I got the director's DVDs." Yeah, that is really cool. But and this is the point. Rosie makes a very good point. Lindsay's character is seeing that there may not be a payoff for being good.
Wow, that's good insight.
Yeah, and that's like I would say that I have to relearn that lesson almost daily. Like that's a thing that you have to remind yourself of and then go, but that's not why you do good. Like that's not why you comport yourself in a way that you feel is respectable, right? You don't do it because you're hoping somebody will reward you for it. You do it for its own sake. Following the rules is awesome. Am I right, Ricky D? Can I get a hell yeah for following the rules?
Hell
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. That's.
Did you guys ever ditch class? You freaking squares! You never
I-
ditched, did you?
I ditched. Okay, so senior year, I had I think 3 classes on one of my days. We had the alternating schedule where you go to 4 classes and then 4 classes. So one day I had 3 classes and the other day I didn't have any classes. So there were a lot of weeks senior year where I was like, I'm just going to not go to either day. But I had all of my credits and I couldn't miss out on enough credits to not graduate at that point. So I was very flippant about it.
The most I did is I would skip pep rallies.
Yeah.
like the Friday before a big football game. Like all through middle school, probably the first couple years of high school, I went to those awful, stupid, useless pep rallies. And it wasn't until like junior, senior year, probably because I had my own car, where I finally was like, oh, I'm not going here. And also, if I break this rule and I leave, it doesn't matter.
No one's gonna
Holy
die.
crap.
It's almost like some of the systems set up here are completely artificial
Yeah.
and can just be walked through. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the realization of going to school, right? That's part of growing up, is going like, oh, literally no one anywhere has any idea what they're doing ever. And that is terrifying. But here we are. We turned it into a podcast. I think we're doing all right, guys. Now, are you guys ready to move into our segments? Because I think we only have 1.5 segments this week, and I'm actually really excited for it. We didn't even make an intro slide for it. There's no sound effect. It doesn't matter. We're going to talk about our favorite moments of dialogue from this year's episode of Freaks and Geeks, because there's a lot of good dialogue in this show. And because it is Ricky D's birthday, we're going to let him go first. Ricky D, what is your pick? Josh, do you have clips? I don't even know.
Nope. I'm going to
Okay.
throw out a couple of them. Like you said, there are so many good little bits of dialogue. I'm just going to pick a couple of them.
I'll raise my hand if you take mine.
All right. The very first line of the entire show is when that football player and the cheerleader are making out on the bleachers. And he looks into her eyes and he goes, babe, sometimes I love you so much. I don't know what I'm
so
going to do
scared.
about it. Yeah. I get scared.
I
And
love you
was
so
like,
much.
"Oh
I'm
my
scared.
God." That was just so funny because that was how you felt in high school about stuff. Like,
That's
I'm
okay,
pretty
I
sure
mean,
I've said that to someone in
that's-
high school
oh,
before.
Okay. Yep. Let's leave it all at that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Ricky.
Another one at one point, Seth Rogen's character, when he's arguing with Busy Phillips about the gum and all that, he just goes, "Why is everybody crawling up my butt?" Which I felt was a very good high school emotion. You feel like every time you turn around, somebody's trying to pull you in some different direction. Somebody's trying to mess with you.
It's
And
not
last,
even that big of a deal.
yeah, it's not a big deal. Everybody can F off. And last one was Martin Starr's character, Bill. When Alan is torturing them at lunch, he just smashes Sam's Twinkies. And Bill goes, "Alan, what is the point of all this?" Which, again, very good, like, high school feelings. Like, why is this guy torturing me? What is he gaining? What happens at the end of the day where he is rewarded for this? I don't understand. And the victim
also,
doesn't
what am I
understand.
doing?
Yeah. The victim doesn't understand, but the bully is clearly getting something out of it.
Well, and
And-
the bully
oh.
the bully knows, like, I am just like reacting to stimuli, right?
Mhm.
Like, there is no pattern. That's what makes it fun.
I'm just being
Like,
an alpha
so-
male.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Josh, what do you have for your favorite line of dialogue?
So you took mine,
I
Jesse.
remember that.
So I'll let you keep that one.
Thank you.
Mine, my second one. I take it out of context, just because in the context when the guidance counselor is talking to Lindsay after he catches her ditching, he says, "The world is not black and white; it's gray." When he's convincing her to be a mathlete, he's like, "I'll give you an ultimatum
You mean
here."
when he's blackmailing her into
Exactly.
being a mathlete?
Exactly. And that, again, I'm taking it out of that context because I don't like it being used in a blackmail context.
Yeah.
But like, he's not wrong.
It is a good lesson to learn. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I
he's
mean,
not wrong.
What else is being an adult than making like borderline shitty trade-offs? Like, really? I mean, for the good of, for a lot of good reasons, of course, but like, you have to get used to being able to go, neither of those things is exactly what I want, but I can be happy with a little bit of either one, right? Like, you have
Right.
to learn how to do that if you're going to live happily through life.
Or just some decisions that you make, like they're not going to be the best, they're not going to be the worst, they're just going to be kind of in the middle, when you're
Oh.
going through life and you make one random decision that's like, oh, well, this is kind of a great decision, we'll see what happens,
That sounds awful. I've never made the wrong choice before. So my pick for
Let's be nice.
the key is confidence. My pick for dialogue is I don't know it exactly. Do you have the clip for it, Josh, or do you want me to just?
I don't have the clip,
Okay.
but it's when Seagal's saying, "Find your drum set."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's telling her like, look, this is the thing that I care about. I don't care about school. I don't care about, you know, the relationships that I have with my friends and like
My
where is my
dad's a
social
dick.
standing and all this stuff. Yeah, like I don't care about that stuff, but I care about this. And if I can, use this to soften the blow of all that other stuff, then I'm totally good. Like, and again, I know that there were kids like that in school. Like there were kids like, the kid who always played guitar or the kid who always, the football player that you knew was going to be a football player and keep being a football player and then become a football coach. Like there is something about looking at the people that you're like, oh, their whole life is planned, where you go, that must be nice. Like I really wish I could be happy with that. And I don't mean to sound condescending, but it's like I feel like most people look at that and go, I wish I could be happy with something that simple, or I wish it were that simple for me to find the thing that makes me that happy, I think is probably what they think. All right. So before we start talking about next year's episode, let's give this one a rating out of 10. So, as a pilot for a show, does this make you want to watch more Freaks and Geeks? Does it make you wish there was more than one season? Take all these things into account. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, since it's your birthday. Why don't you go first, my friend?
I don't think there's any option but to give it a 10. Just flat out, this was awesome. I loved it. It was a rocket ship into an amazing show. 10 out of 10.
There were no rocket ships or cowboys in this, but I see where you're coming from. Josh, what do you got?
See, and I give it an 8 out of 10 because it piques my interest. Like as I've watched this series before, but watching the pilot again, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I really can't wait to see more episodes. And I know I do this with everything because I know for a fact that there's going to be an episode later on down the road that's better than this one. And so giving this an 8 gives the rest of the series room to grow, because although I really do love this episode, it's not my favorite of the series.
So I'm personally going to give it a 9 because I think it actually works as its own thing. Like if you just watch this and then didn't watch any more episodes, you'd be like, that was good. Like that was a fun 44 minutes. Like I had feelings. I would love to know about those characters, but the stories had complete arcs for the most part. Like
they did wrap it up.
Yeah, it was episodic TV, man. Like, but with serialized character arcs. I know how you feel about that, Josh. So that actually puts us at a 0.9, which is 9 out of 10 for the first episode, the pilot of Freaks and Geeks, the first in our 18-year series of coverage of this little gem of a show. Ricky D, happy birthday, man, and great pick. I'm so glad we're doing Freaks and Geeks. This is excellent.
I do have a special request of our audience.
Go ahead.
Please do not watch ahead. If you could please wait for us and do one episode a year the same way we're doing it. Please just save it for the show.
Yeah, but be very let's be honest, it would be disrespectful of you to watch ahead. So please don't do that. We are just about coming to the end of this episode, you guys. I feel like this was fast and loose and nostalgic and we covered so much ground. This was a lot of fun. Like I really feel like we're kicking on all cylinders, you guys. I think this might be the way to go every time we start a new season, is pick another show to get us warmed up and then dive into our next season. Speaking of, our next season is going to be Death Note. If you are there in the live chat with us and you haven't watched Sudden But Inevitable or listened before and you'd like to start now, this is a great time because Death Note is a great show. It is anime, and yes, I know not everybody likes anime, but that's kind of the point here. Ricky D and Josh have never seen Death Note before, and they're both anime-resistant guys. So I'm going to be pushing them through this series. I think we're going to go 2 episodes at a time. The last time I was with you on the screen, I said there were 26 episodes. There aren't. There are 37, and that's a lot of weeks. So we're going to do 2 episodes at a time, cover it over a span of 19 weeks, and that is going to be starting up very soon. Brittany, I know that you love Death Note. That's kind of why I brought it up. I would really appreciate it if you would listen or watch or, hey, maybe you could join as a guest. We have had a lot of people in our live chat join as guests before. Meg, have you watched Death Note? I don't think you're an anime person. Would you like to join us for Death Note? Callie D is a big Death Note fan. She's going to be joining us. I believe Jason from Esoterica Cinema, whose newest episode is now out, and it covers Neon Genesis Evangelion with a little old person called yours truly. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long, and I had a freaking blast. Please go check that out. He will be here to cover Death Note with us at some point. Okay, guys, I need a minute to drink some liquid. Josh, do you have any plugs you would like to share with the folks?
Yeah. I mean, things are just so crazy. They're just so crazy. I'm trying so hard to keep up with all the social medias and things. I'm trying to keep up with the website. I'm trying to get the next Quest Me ready to go. I'm trying to get like another network show going with local music and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things up in the air right now, and a lot of things that I'm trying to build on. But if you'd like to, you can follow me on Twitter at TwistMyArmcast. All of the network things are on Facebook. Just search Twist My Arm Podcast. We do have a website, twistmyarm.net. That'll take you to everything Twist My Arm. That includes Sudden But Inevitable, Quest Me, the original Twist My Arm podcast, Ricky D, Best Flicks with Ricky D, and then Marvel Canon Madness that we do. We're just started covering Moon Knight, and there's so many different things to go to. We have a store that we're going to be updating here soon as well. I mean, there's so many different places you could go, but one thing that I do ask, if you are watching and you're listening, go subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit that bell for all the notifications for when we go live, because not only will you see Sudden But Inevitable, but you'll see Marvel Canon Madness, and sometimes Best Flicks goes live, and Quest Me will be live, stuff like that. So anytime we go live, if you subscribe to our channel, then you'll see that the whole network, which, by the way, is the Open Pike Night streaming from the Twist My Arm thing? Or are you doing your own?
It is not
stream
so,
area. Okay,
Josh is
I didn't
referring-
know.
It's okay. It's technically a spin-off of Green Shirt, a newbie
Okay.
trek through the next generation,
Okay.
which is a podcast that our friend Cameron runs. So Josh is talking about Open Pike Night, which is a brand new Strange New Worlds podcast that I host with our friend Cameron and his producer John T. Bolds. I could not exist as a podcasting person and not have a Star Trek podcast. It is a call-in show. We accept jokes. We accept opinions of every ilk, and then we discuss those things. Recently, we just talked about the first full trailer that dropped for Strange New Worlds, as well as all the little individual character trailers before that. That new episode is going to be out later this week. If you're listening to this podcast in a podcast player, it's probably already out. Just go find Open Pike Night in your favorite podcast app. If you want, you can follow that show on Twitter to interact and get your voice on the show at Open Pike, or you can send 90 seconds or fewer of audio to openpike@gmail.com. Strange New Worlds starts May 5th on Paramount Plus, and I cannot wait because I am a child with a beard. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Have you got plugs for the folks, my friend?
Yeah, I actually haven't done an episode of Best Flicks for a couple of weeks, so I'm doing some reorganizing, doing a little thinking, and I guess we'll see what Best Flicks has to bring. But you can always follow me on Twitter at BestFlicksRickyD. You can check out my back episodes. Just search for the Best Flicks with Ricky D podcast. And if you have any questions, any suggestions, anything like that for me, I'd love to hear from anybody on Twitter.
And I would like to say, really quickly, before we get out of here, thank you to all you wonderful people in the chat. Every week, I know that I say it more than once. We've actually upset listeners by how much we thank you, but I don't care. I'm never going to stop doing that. So thank you, Meg. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rona. Thank you, Callie. Thank you, Aaron, who was here for a while. Thank you, Carla, who was here momentarily, I think, and then dipped. We have had so much fun talking high school and Ricky D's birthday with you, and I have had a blast. And I can't tell you how much it means to us that we have folks here with us every week and that we have folks out there all over the world listening. That is the coolest thing. To that point, I want to throw out that March is our second biggest month ever as far as downloads go. So thank you guys. I think we put out 2 episodes in March, so that's insane to me. Thank you for checking out the back catalog, for checking out Firefly and Old Cowboy Bebop and all the movies that we covered. Thank you for coming with us on Sudden But Inevitable on the journey that is 18 years long of Freaks and Geeks, and of course, starting next week, season 4 for Death Note. Gentlemen, I think that's basically it for the night. Do you have anything else that you need to get out?
I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming and celebrating my birthday. Like I said earlier, I don't do a lot of birthday celebrating. It's something I haven't done in quite a few years. This has been a blast. Taking some time to celebrate yourself and do this kind of thing with friends has been a great experience. I thank you, Jesse, Josh, everybody in the chat. This has been a really good day.
It has been amazing. I have to point this out before I get to you, Josh. Meg says, I'm not an anime fan, but I'm a Sudden But fan, so I will watch it for you. Thank you, Meg. Josh.
Do we do it? Do we do it, Jesse? Happy birthday to you.
Actually, I'll just
Happy
replace this with the song
birthday.
from Ragnarok. It'll be totally fine.
I muted him.
We have a whole thing for our podcast. There's a running joke for this, so let's go ahead and get out of their hair for the evening, gentlemen. So for the sign off, let's go Ricky, Josh, and myself. So for Sudden But Inevitable, I have been Jesse.
This is Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
I'm Josh.
Have a good birthday, folks, even if it's not today.